Hi, this is Emily, the Audi nerd, and tonight we're taking a look at the all-new Audi Q8 e-tron. But you may be thinking, this is not a Q8. I know what a Q8 looks like. This is not an e-tron. I know what that looks like. It kind of looks like that. I thought that already existed. What the heck is going on? None of this makes any sense. Just wait. I've got all your answers and a couple more interesting facts for you. Let's go. First, let's jump back in time to the 1980 Geneva Auto Show, where Audi debuted the brand-defining technology of the Quattro all-wheel drive system. And because this was the very first time that we're seeing this technology, Audi named that very first model the Quattro. Now let's fast forward to 2018, where they debuted another brand-defining technology at the San Francisco Auto Show. This was the Audi e-tron. Being as though this was their very first electric model, they called this the e-tron. And now that it is time for that model to be refreshed and retired, they are applying that name to other models in the fleet, just like how they did to Quattro. We don't have any models called Quattro anymore, but we do have models that have the Quattro system with it, like an RS3 has Quattro, like the Q8 e-trons have Quattro. All of those things are still there. And because of that, that's why this e-tron name is getting attached to new models. So as we're seeing the Q8 e-tron model behind us, there's also the Q4 e-tron, the Q6 e-trons coming, the e-tron GT, and many more that'll come in the future. But how did they land on the Q8? The Q8 is named this way because it is our largest and it is our most luxurious of our e-tron models offered. So that is why the Q8 is this name. Going forward, Audi has said that all of their even number cars will be electric with the exception of the number 8, because that is just highest of everything. So highest level of luxury, highest level of ICE. That's why we still have the regular gas Q8 and we still have the regular A8 at this time. So the number 8 is the only exception, but going forward in the future, new models that are electric will have an even number, and numbers that are gas, those will be odd numbers. In addition to the new e-tron naming, Audi has also reintroduced their new branding and logo. Behind me, you will see the new two-dimensional rings, and I love that they are bringing the white back. It's like the 80s are coming back for us. And another cool thing, which would make all of you who have the silver rings feel more special, is that the badging on the rear of the vehicle is no longer offered in silver. It only comes in black. You do not have a choice between the two colors anymore. As far as the rings go, you do have an option between the white rings you'll see right here. These are actually glass. They are laid in a resin backing. And then the other option is part of the black optics package, or as a standalone option is a gray set of rings, or anthracite colored. Over the last few decades, it's been hard to think of a time where you see the name Audi on any of the vehicles on the interior or the exterior. However, that has now changed. On all of our new vehicles, you will see the laser etching here on the B pillar. The cool thing about this laser etching is only S and RS models will have a rhombus along the B pillar. However, on the rear of the vehicle, it is an entirely different story. From now going forward, any vehicle that is an S-line, an S model, or an RS vehicle will have a rhombus on the rear. My husband and I fondly refer to this as rhombus appropriation. However, I'll let you decide what you think of it. The last new part of the new badging is the fact that there will not be any badging whatsoever in the front of the grille. Currently, you will see S and RS in the front of the grille. That will no longer be the case, and you will only see an S or an RS designation on the rear of the vehicle or laser etched on the B pillar. Now, at the front of the vehicles, as you can see, comparing them side by side, they have very subtle differences, and there's a couple of them I will highlight for you. So if you come in a little bit closer, the very first one you'll likely notice is the light bar along the front, right along here. Now, this one is not exclusive to the S model only. This one is available on the regular Q8 as long as you get the Prestige package. That is specifically available for that package. However, if you look at the grills next, you see that the honeycomb is just ever so slightly different. The shape and design of the honeycomb, while it's still the inverted single frame grille, letting you know that it's an e-tron model, is just slightly different than the regular Q8. And then coming along, you'll see the active arrow along the sides here. These side scoops are just a little bit different. This one has a little bit more of the lines and etching going in along there. And if you come in a little further back, you'll see the really aggressive wheel arches on the side here. And these also have active arrow vents along the side here too. Now backing up, the other thing you can see from this angle, which is so cool, and I cannot believe that an OEM is doing this these days, look at the flush fitment with the wheels. Even the regular Q8 is still better than most cars, but holy crap, that is so cool. Another thing you'll see on between these two vehicles, the digital matrix headlights on this car, as it is a Prestige, that is available on the regular Q8 too. The easiest way you can see it is right along inside the headlight, if you see where it says Audi digital matrix on the inside. As I mentioned before on other US vehicles, at this time, fully functioning matrix, where it actually shuts off different beams if someone's in front of you, that is not yet unlocked for the United States. However, that is something that is coming in the future.
When the Audi Q8 e-tron is optioned with the digital matrix headlights, you do have a welcome home and leaving home option that is coming as a projection from the headlights. You have a variety of different options which can be selected in the MMI, but here are the different options that are available. As a part of the matrix design headlights, you will also get an animation for the headlights and the taillights.
Now, traditionally, when there's some sort of product improvement on a previous generation of a vehicle, which we're usually talking about internal combustion, you usually have a next generation or a slight improvement on the engine. Now, because these are battery electric vehicles, you have a slight improvement on the batteries and on the rear motor themselves to increase the range of the vehicle. The previous e-tron had a 95 kilowatt hour battery, and this new one, while it's in the exact same packaging as the old battery, has a 114 kilowatt hour battery, allowing us to have further range, just part of the capacity of the battery. Something to note is that the charging time for an overnight at-home charge has been increased to a total of an estimated 16 hours. Now, that 16 hours isn't on average for anywhere in the United States. You may get a little better than that, you may get a little worse than that, depending on where you are throttled inside of your electric grid where you live. At this time, Audi is not including a level 2 charging cable with their vehicles. You do have the level 1, which is considered your trickle charger. So if you do want either a portable level 2 or a hardwired level 2 charger at home, you would need to source that outside of purchasing the vehicle. The Q8 e-tron has 402 horsepower and goes from 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds. The top speed of the Q8 e-tron is 124 miles an hour. And you may be asking yourself, well, this vehicle must be capable of much more. It's destined for the Autobahn. And you'd be right. However, because this is an electric vehicle and it's very important to have low rolling resistance tires and tires that can sustain the weight of an electric vehicle, that's actually the weak point. Anything faster and the tires cannot keep up with that. So it is the tires on the vehicle that are limiting the top speed rather than the vehicle itself. The max charging speed of a Q8 e-tron, whether it's the S or the regular, is 170 kilowatts, and it does charge from 10% to 80% in 31 minutes, as long as that charger is equipped for that full level. Something that is unique about the Q8 e-tron, which we start seeing on other electric vehicles, is it has an onboard, even faster level 2 charger. And now that might not make a lot of sense, and let me break it down for you. So the actual charger for the vehicle is in the car itself. The cable that comes with the car, that's just allowing the electricity to get from your home or wherever you are plugged in to the charger, which is built in the car. It's just a transport method. The actual charger, which controls everything, is a part of the vehicle itself. The normal onboard charger is 9.6 kilowatts. However, if you option it with the AC charging package, which allows you to have a charger on the passenger side as well, you do also get the onboard 19.2 kilowatt charger. That reduces your charging time from 16 hours from 0 to 100 in 6.5 hours. Please note, instead of a 50 amp breaker to have the charger in your home, you must have a 100 amp breaker in your home to run that charger. And at this time, there is not a vessel that can take the power from the wall to the car yet. That's something that's still under development. So if you get that, just know in the future, you'll be able to have a charging cord that can do that for you. And now, let's take a look at the SQ8 e-tron. The SQ8 e-tron, as I mentioned, shares the same battery, same front motor, and instead of one motor on the rear axle, it now has 2 motors on the rear axle, thus allowing it to have 496 horsepower. It goes from 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds. This one has a top speed of 130 miles an hour, same letdown, it happens to be the tires, not the car itself. The SQ8 e-tron also has the same AC charging package, which is available, and as you see, this car in particular does not have it, as it does not have the button here to release the charging door. So when you're optioning your Q8 e-tron, if you decide you do want that either extra charging door or the higher onboard charger, just make sure you option it with that package. It is also important to note that all of the charging times, no matter how you're charging it or where you're going, between the two vehicles are exactly the same. Now, before I tell you the range of these two vehicles, I want to highlight something that is different in how these vehicles were both tested. So previously on the old e-tron and the e-tron S, they were just one blanket range, no matter what options and packages you are offered with. However, your salesperson's, their job was to tell you that if you optioned it with the larger wheels or more packages, which makes the vehicle overall heavier, it will reduce your range. This time, Audi tested the Q8 e-tron as fully loaded and with the largest wheels offered. That gleaned us to the range of 285 miles. However, on the SQ8 e-tron, they gave us a range. It's somewhere between 253 miles and 218 miles, depending on the packages and options. As this one right here, since it is a Prestige and has the largest wheels offered, this one has 218 miles. Now, while we're on the topic of range, I want to take just a minute of your time and talk about what most people's hot button is, which is range or range anxiety. Now, before we get into all this, I do want to preface by saying these are the most beautiful EVs on the market. And would I own one? Would I spend my own money? Would I replace or add it into any way in my garage? Yep, I would, hands down. And I would take this one right here, with 218 miles of range in this color, with these wheels, these options. Yes, I'd take it. Just like this. But that is because that is what works into my lifestyle. And now we need to talk about how to figure out what would work into yours and if an EV is something you should even consider. First, I have a question for you. What car are you driving now? Google what the EPA estimated MPG is on the city and the highway, and I want you to write those numbers down on a Post-it. And then I want you to go out to your car and I want you to look at the last trip and compare those numbers with what it should be, because that'll tell you a lot about your driving habits. If you are someone who very easily is able to achieve those EPA numbers, or even better, you will probably love an EV. And this range number, you may even get a little bit better, because this range number is highly dependent on your driving style. These vehicles are optimized for between 65 and 75 miles an hour. Anything above that, and you will see drastic decreases in the range. And the biggest thing is they're not just optimized for that aerodynamically, it's everything, thermally, the battery themselves, the motors, everything, how it all works together. That's the optimum range. My next question for you is, how do you like to do your road trips? Do you like to plan them out well in advance and plan out different stops along the way? If you do, you'll probably love an e-tron. Or are you someone who really likes to get from point A to point B as fast as you possibly can and even skip a stop if you have to end up just on fumes by the time you get there? You probably won't love taking an EV long places. Now, if you live in the city, and you drive less than 125 miles a day, and you have a place to charge it at home, or maybe even possibly at the office, this car would be fantastic for you. You'd probably never buy gas again. That's the thing that people don't see about this range number. This one has 285, and this one gets 218. That's 100% charge. You have to ask yourself when you're considering these vehicles, how many times am I going to be driving more than that range within a given day? If you're just using a commuter car, you have other cars to take out long trips, EVs are fantastic. If you're someone who takes a long trip often, and I mean at least once a month, if not more, then it probably isn't the right car. Another aspect I'd like to touch on is the technology in these cars. And this is not just for Audi's EVs. This is for every EV in general. Something I used to tell my customers, which I still fondly do, is that when Audi came out with the e-tron, well now the Q8 e-tron, we didn't reinvent the wheel as far as driving an electric vehicle. It feels like an Audi, it looks like an Audi, it drives like an Audi. It just happens to be electric. I now have gotten to spend quite a bit of time in these vehicles, and my father does have an e-tron GT, and so I've gotten to have a lot of experience. And while there's not much more of a learning curve, there is a lot more planning and thinking that has to go into things. And having access to technology, whether using Electrify America for free credits or other things like that, if you're not a very tech-savvy person, you'll probably have a lot of frustrations with an EV. These are not simple EVs, because as you would expect from a luxury vehicle, this vehicle is meant to fit into your lifestyle. You can change the charging time. You can set the charging time from your phone. You can set it from remotely. You can remote start for all intents and purposes. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. You can have even a report of how much electricity you use each month, all this different stuff at your fingertips. But if you're not someone who likes having all that information or having to do all of those things, or don't use your phone very well, that probably would mean that this would not be a logical next step. Now, for my enthusiast folks out there who know that we're very much into our performance models, you may have thrown your hands up and exclaimed when I said that I would actually own one of these. But if you think about it, it makes sense. The thing we don't necessarily have is a commuter car, and that is where the EV would fill that hole. So because I have a bunch of different cars, and while still I enjoy internal combustion cars, an EV would make sense for commuting back and forth to work every day. And so in that regard, I can really respect that this is an option that's out there, but I also respect that it is not the only solution out there. Oh, and while we're talking to my enthusiasts here, you'll love this one. Because of those two motors on the rear axle, you can drift it. If you haven't noticed by now, this car is actually brown. This brown in particular is called Madeira Brown, and it's offered on a couple of different vehicles besides the Q8 e-tron. And I'm gonna go on record by saying this. Brown cars are cool. Okay, Now, up close and personal with the front of the Q8 e-tron, there's a lot of things I can talk about here, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that they changed to optimize the aerodynamics of the car. So first I'm going to talk about the active aero dampers, which are underneath here. This allows it so that they have a reduced amount of air loss, and then underneath, on the SUV in particular, you will see the wheel spoilers under here. On the Sportback, it is in the front and the rear, and just on the regular SUV in the front, and on the S models, they do not have either of those. Now coming along up here, you will see your forward-facing camera right here. This car in particular is a Premium Plus package, so I'm going to go over the things that you will find on that. So your forward-facing camera, there's also one up in the windshield, and then you do have 8 proximity sensors along the front. You have some up here in the grille, and then all the way along to the side. These headlights, you'll see, they are unchanged as far as the design goes from the previous generation, which is pretty cool. I love the striking look of them, and even how the daytime running lights are all integrated on the top and the bottom. Now, because this one is not a Prestige, this one does not have the light bar in along here, and if it was the Prestige, it'd be illuminated just as it was on the SQ8 e-tron we looked at earlier. Part of the black optics package is this entire grille surround that goes even all the way up to trimming underneath the headlights. I know that this one has the black optics package, and typically you'd have black rings and badges, but as I mentioned earlier, black rings are no longer an option. It is a gray ring called anthracite, and so this is now a port installed accessory. So if you do decide that you want the anthracite color, that is something that you can option, but it is not necessarily a part of the black optics package. Currently, the only way to get it as a part of a package is on the launch edition as part of the Prestige. The Q8 e-tron is jam-packed with tons of safety features and creature comfort features. Now, to talk about safety features, there are so many around the vehicle, and all of our EVs have even more sensors and things surrounding the car to make sure that it is monitoring every possible thing it can. And part of that is to adjustment for range, temperature, elevation, all those different types of things. And because of these super advanced safety features and the way that the battery is constructed as a part of the frame itself, and the crush points it has, and how the cooling panel is only on the bottom of the battery, which is very, very important in the event that you puncture or get in a crash or anything, because the liquid drains right out the bottom, therefore it does not mix with the lithium ion of the battery, which is where you see those big fiery balls of the electric vehicles. It's when all that stuff mixes. And Audi did the best they could by putting that on the bottom so it drains right out and does not mix. But why that's all important is because all of our e-tron models have achieved the IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus, which is the highest rating that any vehicle can achieve. So have peace of mind knowing that yes, you're driving an Audi, it's very safe. It is the safest vehicle you could have on the road. The really cool part that I like about the new Q8 e-tron is they took the wheels, while the previous e-tron wheels were not bad by any means, but they made them look pretty dang cool. The amount of texture that are in these wheels are really, really, really intricate. These wheels in particular are part of the black optics package. It is the largest wheel offered if you do not go with the S-Line package. Now I want to talk about S-Line package. I talked about that earlier when I was talking about the new badging structure. Currently on the Q8 e-tron and the Q8 e-tron Sportback, the only way to get the S-Line exterior without going all the way up to the S model is if you option it with the launch edition package. Once we have moved on from the very first year of vehicle, I'd expect that the S-Line package will be a standalone option. The side of the Q8 e-tron is largely unchanged from the previous e-tron model. You will see, because of the black optics package, you do have all of your black trim and window surroundings, and you also have the black on the lower part of the mirrors, and all the way underneath along there, you do have the satin roof rails along the top. The cool thing about our e-trons is, just like our gas cars, it does have the 3 sensors on the top, so it lets the car know if there is something on there, which adjusts the all-wheel drive system. But again, we can't forget, now that we're along the side, along this B-pillar is the laser etching of the new Q8 e-tron and the Audi logo. Now at the back of the vehicles, I want to remind us, we know this is not black, it is brown. This is not orange, it is red, specifically Sonera red. And the cool thing about the name Sonera red is it is named after an Audi designer. From this angle, you can see the difference between the S rear bumper and the non-S rear bumper. As you can see, it's slight differences between the two of them. And this is the perfect place where you get to see the rhombus in real life, where the rhombus is next to an S. That allows you to know that it is an S model, but if the rhombus was just next to the Q8, then it would be an S-line Q8 e-tron. The other cool thing is the badges themselves are also two-dimensional. How the previous generation had a very much 3-dimensional offered in silver or black. Each of these vehicles has 6 proximity sensors along the rear, and then they each have the e-tron down here in the lower area to signify that underneath the vehicle, that is where the battery is. The towing capacity for both the Q8 e-tron and the SQ8 e-tron is 3,300 pounds. Now please note that the tow package option is only available currently for sold orders. So you likely will not see one on dealer lots with the tow package. If you do need one installed, you can have it done at the dealership, or if you want it installed as you order, make ssure to place that on your solar or at your dealer. The rear lights for both of these vehicles do have the light bar that goes all the way across. They are identical between the Q8 e-tron and the SQ8 e-tron. Yet another reason why I like to say that the SQ8 e-tron is just the highest trim level offered of the regular Q8 e-tron. The motor on the rear axle has been upgraded for the Q8 e-tron versus the old e-tron model. The old e-tron model had 12 copper coils, while the new one has 14 copper coils. The reason why this is important is it requires less electricity to achieve the same torque request, thus allowing you to get further range because it requires less electricity to achieve the same request. Audi listened to the previous owners of Audi e-trons, and part of that is we made some adjustments to the chassis control and the steering. The front control arm bushing is now made of a stiffer material. There is a more direct steering ratio and revised software for the chassis control systems. This resulted in 20% increased steering feedback, 5% less body movement, and 10% less steering angle required to do the same turning actions as before. And last year when I was invited to see these vehicles when they were brand new in Germany, I got to drive them back to back, even on their short road course. And I gotta tell you, it makes a huge difference. Just those small numbers makes the feel of the overall vehicle a totally different ride. The cargo capacity for both the Q8 e-tron and the SQ8 e-tron is the same. It is 28.5 cubic feet with the seats up, and it is 56.4 with the seats down. Now please note that this is less than the regular ICE Q8, but it is about the same as the last e-tron. Both the Q8 e-tron and the SQ8 e-tron have the option for the kick to open and kick to close for the tailgate. However, I do want to mention something very important about that. If you live anywhere where they put any sort of stuff on the roads, whether it's sand, salt, doesn't matter what it is, it will not work if that sensor is covered. So you must, if you're having issues with the vehicle, before bringing it to the dealership, make sure you take it through 1 or 2 cycles of an undercarriage wash for the vehicle. Another very important thing, you must kick directly under the vehicle. Do not wag your foot around. Kick directly under and kick it straight back. Now we're going to talk about the interior of the Q8 e-tron. I have the SQ8 e-tron here because the interiors are largely unchanged from each other. This one in particular does have the individual contour seat package, which gives it the comfort massaging seats. So it does not have the S seats that are standard on the Q8 e-tron, which makes it even more similar to the regular Q8 e-tron. For this video, we're going to use the interior sizing for this car, and we're not going to really talk about the regular Q8 e-tron, aside from the fact that it does have a very cool interior color that is offered on that one. But without further ado, let's see how I can sit in the back seat. You know the drill, the front has been adjusted for my husband, who's a little bit over 6 feet tall, and I'm 5'5" 3/4. Sitting back here, as you can see, I have tons and tons of room. I mean, I've almost full hand length in front of my feet. And the cool part is because it's an EV, there's really virtually no hump here in the center. And the other cool part is you do have the fully digital climate control panel here. Now coming back out, you will see you do have your privacy screens, which are brought up right here. These are part of the Prestige package. And you can also see right now the really, really cool S-beam rings inside the rhombus. Now before we forget, come back up and we can see the headroom. As you can see, there is tons of sculpted out headroom. The sunroof ends just before my head, which allows it to be sculpted out for even more headroom. And you do have the reading lights back here. Little known fact about all of the Audi lights is you can turn it on. If you press and hold and continue to hold, you can actually dim the light, so it's not the full brightness, which may be nice for the driver or the passenger up front. Coming along, if you turn just a little bit, you will see that we actually even have ventilation along the B pillar right here with a controllable valve for if you want all the air or none of the air. And there's also the clips in here for if you want to hang any of the dog beds along back here, which would protect your seats. A feature that is often overlooked on the Prestige package is the power soft closing doors, or I like to call them anti-slam doors, because all you have to do is just get the door close enough where it's ready to latch, and the door will actually suck itself all the way back in. And this is another perfect time where you get to see the laser etching along the B pillar. Now in the interior of the SQ8 e-tron, I'm going to give you a tour of most of the features and items found inside. You will see coming along down here, this console here is really unique because it has all these structuring pieces to it. Down here, your cup holders, they do expand or get smaller if you need a smaller cup, and the cool part is they actually close, so there is the cover that goes over the top of them. And then you do have the wireless charger along the side of this as well. Now coming up here again, as this is the Prestige, it will have all of the features. So this button here allows you to see your camera, so if you want to see your cameras for what you're doing right now, or use the 3D view, if you wanted to spin around, you can see the car all the way in inside the vehicle. The cool part about that is you can see how you are and parked inside the line. So you can see right now how we're parked inside the garage. You can also choose and see if you want to have any different views. You could change any of those or turn off 3D, and then you can choose any of the views that you wanted. You do have your radio, media, phone, and navigation and phone apps. Those are exactly the same as you would on the previous generation. There really aren't too many differences inside here. There is something I want to show you inside vehicle. You do have your charging tab, which you can also access by pushing this button right down here. This is where you can adjust and choose how much of charge you want to use. It goes over that 80% is for daily use, and then anything beyond that is for long trips. You can also see here your different charge timers and your climate controls. This is very important if these are departure times. So let's say you left every day at 7 a.m. You could turn that on and make sure you also select the temperature control. And it will remember whatever temperature control you have going on in the vehicle right now. That will let you know that the climate control is active for that. So then that will have it all ready to go when you leave. Similar to having you remote start a vehicle before you leave every morning, this would have it ready to go by that time. If you go into vehicle data inside here, you can see other range potential and things you can turn off. So like right now we have the heated seat on. So if I were to turn that off, it'll say range potential 0 miles because there's nothing else it can do to get into have a higher range. By turning it into range mode, you will see that it will increase the range. It's also going to reduce your speed to 80 miles an hour and turn off everything else. So it'll turn off the climate control if it wasn't already off. It does everything. By clicking this eye, you can see a lot of the things that it does within the range mode. Something that is unique to e-tron vehicles is the navigation. The pretty cool part about the navigation is if you do zoom out, and as long as this feature is enabled, so we'll zoom out here, and it's currently not enabled. So if you make sure you can adjust whatever you want to have setting that way. And then if you go into your settings, go into map settings, satellite and range map. Make sure that range map is selected. That way when you go back, you will see the bubble. That's what I like to call it, of how far you can drive within your range. The cool part is then you can explore and you can see I can get all the way past Des Moines, I can go a little bit up further, I can go up to Sioux Falls, I can go to Kansas City, wherever you need to go. And then if you have a full charge, it'll go all the way out the side that as well. Like the previous generation, all of these tiles are movable. So you can adjust it to move wherever you want it to. Like if you wanted to have it over on this side, you certainly can. And when you're done, simply press done. Going into phone apps, this is something that is pretty unique. If you go into connected devices, go into settings, go into Bluetooth, this is where you can adjust your Bluetooth name. So by simply going all the way back, you can adjust it to whatever you want it to be. So you can do Audi e-tron. Now, anytime that you connect that or anyone else connects for a Bluetooth device, it would be called the Audi e-tron. This is your interior ambient lighting. It is offered in several different colors. So if we go into vehicle again, and we go into light and visibility, and we go into interior lighting, this is where you can adjust your different colors. By clicking individual, surfaces and lines, then colors, you can see you have 30 different color options. So you can choose it to whatever you want it to be. But there is something even cooler. So we'll back up again, go back into this, and if you press and hold on interior lighting here, you can click save as shortcut. So now let's say you're someone who did want to often change the interior lighting. By simply pressing this little 4 square down here, simply press that, hit interior lighting, and it would bring you right into this setting, so you can easily change it without having to go into all the initial drawers inside the vehicle settings. Coming down here, you will see we are doing over this drawer here. This one is for your hill descent assist. This is your park assist, so if the vehicle was turned on, you could use that to park the vehicle. This is your garage door opener. This one we mentioned earlier gets you right into your charging. This one has to do with your heads-up display, and you can choose the different items that are in that heads-up display. You can use that by touching there to turn this top screen off. Here you do have your heated seats, your ventilated seats, your air conditioning to sync the climate control, and then tapping by pushing that back on, you have your different settings along here. This is where you can find your heated steering wheel to set the rear temp, sync everything, off or AC on, off, and max. Over here you do have your recirculation, ventilated seat for the passenger, and heated seat. Because this vehicle has the individual contour seating, if you simply press on the seat right here, it'll bring up a whole nother adjustment for the panel. You can see the seat setting, you can adjust the side bolsters, you can adjust the side bolsters in the lower area, and you can even adjust the extension of the leg. I've described this fully in a couple of my other videos, but this also does come with massage. So you have 3 different levels of intensity and all the different options for the massage levels. The virtual cockpit for the Audi e-tron is pretty cool. This one in particular is the e-tron layout, as you can see all the different stuff, and it even shows you over here along your battery percentage and how much power you're using. So this is also showing you here if you were using the regen for charge. The reason I want to talk about this is because you have 4 different levels of regen. You have 0, which is no regen, which is coasting, and then by pushing this paddle here, you would adjust your different different levels. So there are 2 levels that are controllable by the paddles. Level 1, which is 0.06 Gs of regen. Level 2, which is 0.13 levels of regen. And then the third level is using the brake pedal, which is a maximum of 0.3 Gs of regen. And you can see how much charges by charging in this area while you're driving. Now in the interior of the SQ8 e-tron, there's a couple of features that designate it right away that it's the SQ8 e-tron. First is your carbon square inlays, which up here, which is a textured inlay. It is not real carbon, but it's a pretty cool texture which blends in really nicely with the dash. Also the S embossing right here on the shifter pad and the S right here on the steering wheel. But coming along, you will see this car in particular has the individual contour seat package. That allows you to have all the adjustments possible and even massaging seating. Standard, this vehicle comes with the S Sport seats, which I do not have a video of, as we do not have a vehicle with that in stock right now. The Q8 e-tron has the pearl beige interior, which you can see along here. The thing I really like about it is it does have some black elements to it as well, and it looks fantastic with the real wood inlays along the top as well. So the cool part about the Audi e-tron is that we do have the option for any customization you could possibly want for the interior ambient lighting. I can actually make it even brighter now so you can see all this. We chose a yellow, a purple, but if I wanted to, I could choose up to 30 different colors. So all these colors which are offered throughout here, like maybe I wanted to do, instead of the yellow, I wanted to do red, so I can do red. Or if I can choose back, maybe instead I wanted to do blue for the other option, so I can choose any blue color. You can change it on command just like that. Another cool feature part of the Prestige package is you do have your illuminated seatbelt buckle, so whenever you're in the dark, it's really easy to find your buckle. And it's also in the back seats as well. Thanks for watching tonight's video on the Audi Q8 e-tron, bonus including the SQ8 e-tron. I hope you had fun watching this video. I had a lot of fun making it for you. If you have any questions about these vehicles or other vehicles in particular, please leave it down below in the comments or come check one out at Audi Omaha. Thanks for watching.